All right, guys, good morning. It's our last week of school. I hope you guys enjoyed your weekend. Here is the game plan for the rest of this week. You can kind of see my scribbles off to the side of grouping some lessons together to make sure that I am able to teach you everything that you need to know to prep you for Algebra 2. Remember, May 11th is our deadline for our grades. So Sunday night, I will be posting your final grades. So if you want to work on anything, let me know. What is going to end up happening? So I think what I'm going to end up doing is not posting IXLs past Wednesday. So Wednesday will be your last IXL lesson. And if you wish to improve your grade, that way you just have to watch videos and do whatever lessons you want to fix. So I will not be posting any IXLs past Wednesday. So prisms and cylinders will be your last IXL lesson, and then I will still be posting the tutorial videos on these, but I'm not going to be assigning any kind of IXL for you. It's just, here are the videos, practice your IXL, because I want you to have plenty of time. I don't want to overwhelm you with your schoolwork, because I don't know what the other teachers are assigning you, and I just don't want to overwhelm you as you try to finish up your school year before, next year. So I just want to make sure that you have plenty of time to get everything done that you need to get done. So what we're going to do today, we are killing this schedule. I'm really excited that you're going to get to learn every single thing of geometry. It's going to put you at a huge advantage next year when you get to Algebra 2 and you take the ACT, because geometry is half of the math ACT. So what we're going to do today, we're going to do a quadrilateral property flowchart for parallelograms, and then we're going to talk about trapezoids. And then on Tuesday, we're going to do kites. This page 22 is already completed. We're just going to talk about it, and then we're going to talk about nets, and then move into volume on Wednesday. So today we're just doing the property flowchart and trapezoids. So on page 17, it's turned to the side because the flowchart is easier to kind of read from an angle. So this is page 17. What this property flowchart does is it takes properties of parallelograms and makes them flow down into a chart. So we're going to be talking about parallelograms, rhombus, rectangles, and squares today. So let's start with the first one on the top, quadrilaterals. What makes a quadrilateral exist is that all quadrilaterals have four sides. So as far as their properties go and them being so cool, all they do is they just have four sides. Also, all interior angles add to equal 360. So if it is a quadrilateral, the one thing it's going to do is it's going to have four sides forever and always. That's the term quad meaning four. So it's always going to have four sides. And then all the interior angles will add up to 360. That's all the properties that quadrilateral brings to the table. There's not much else special about a quadrilateral. So the quadrilateral properties, there are two. Quadrilaterals have four sides, and all of the interior angles add up to 360. That's it. There's nothing else special about quadrilaterals. Now, this is a flowchart. So just like in English class, if you follow a flowchart, all a flowchart does is it takes properties and flows them down into other properties. It kind of trickles down. So parallelogram properties. So a parallelogram is a four-sided figure where opposite sides are parallel. So that's why it's called a parallelogram. Now, all parallelograms inherit the quadrilateral properties. So they're going to get all quadrilateral properties. And I'm going to just abbreviate properties for props. So quadrilateral properties, all parallelograms will inherit the properties of a quadrilateral, meaning they're going to have four sides. Awesome. That's it. Like their interior angles add up to 360. Parallelograms, though, have 6 special properties of their own. The first one, property number 1. The opposite sides are parallel. So the first thing about a parallelogram is that its opposite sides, sorry, let me just adjust that real quick. There we go. The opposite sides are parallel, which means this top portion is parallel to the bottom. And remember, we show parallel with arrows. And then the side over here is parallel to the other side. So the opposite sides are parallel. Now, think of it this way, the term parallelogram, opposite sides are parallel, a parallelogram. So there's kind of just a connection for you to kind of follow. The word parallelogram, parallel. Okay, the next, number 2, is that the opposite sides are also congruent. So the opposite sides are congruent. So the sides that are parallel are also congruent, meaning AB is parallel to DC, and they're also the same measurement. And then you have the sides. AD is congruent to BC. So when dealing with a parallelogram, the opposite sides are parallel. So this bottom is congruent to the top, and then you've got your sides. So, sorry, my hands are in the camera. This side is parallel to, or congruent to this side. So opposite sides are parallel, and opposite sides are congruent. Now let's talk about opposite angles. Now, parallelograms have a lot of congruency within them. So the next one is that the opposite angles are also congruent. So that would mean A and angle C. Those are equal. And then D and angle B. Now remember, just because I'm not drawing all of these properties on one picture doesn't mean that they don't exist, okay? So you also have your opposite angles. So that means that angle A would be the same as angle C, and they both look the same. That's the one good thing about parallelograms, is if they look like they're congruent, they probably are. So opposite angles are congruent. A is congruent to C. They look identical. B is congruent to D. They also look identical. All right, the next property is regarding alternate interior angles. So remember, we've reviewed alternate interior angles a bunch. This next property is that alternate interior angles are congruent. Alternate interior angles are congruent. So let's do a little review. So review time. Remember, when you have parallel lines cut by a transversal, your alternate interior angles look like this. This angle here and this angle here. And then you have them here and here. This angle and this angle. Those are alternate interior angles. So just for a review from previous chapters, what we're going to do, remember, alternate interior angles are congruent. All right, so let's fill everything in. Alternate interior angles are congruent. Let's look at all of our interior angles. So we've got an angle here. The alternate interior would be down here. Now, one thing that I would highly recommend that you need to do is use color. It's a lot easier. So here's another pair, alternate interior angle here and here. And then the same pattern happens on the other side. So what that means is you have alternate interior angle here and here. And then to end, you have one here and here. Now, vertical angles are still a thing. They still exist. We will talk about those on page 18 when we kind of fill in a little cheat sheet for you. But alternate interior angles are going to be equal to each other. So like this tiny angle and this tiny angle, they're going to be the same. Now, these are only created when you have diagonals in your picture. If you don't have diagonals, then it's not going to, there's no alternate interior angles here. Okay? All right. The next one kind of goes in conjunction with 3. So, sorry, my binder fell off the table. So to fill in, it's okay. So to fill in, these kind of go together. Okay, these kind of are similar with each other. So on this one, I'm going to kind of write it up here. It's a little bit longer. So same side interior angles. I don't need it. It's okay. You can move it. Are supplementary. So what that, oh, let me scoot that over. So I'm going to kind of use the same color pattern here. A with C, D with B, okay? So again, we've got this angle here and this one here, D and B. And then we have A here and C here, okay? So yes, the opposite angles are congruent, but also same side interior are supplementary. So let's review what that means. So to review, same side interior, remember that's kind of like this picture here where this angle and this angle, remember they add to equal 180. So the same idea is happening here. If I was to extend this side of my picture and this one, extend them out, notice if I cover it up, same picture. Okay, and this kind of works as you go around the circle. So what's that, or not the circle, the parallelogram. So if they're on the same side, so A plus angle D is going to equal 180. And as we go around, that's also going to happen on all of our sides. So A and D, then we can do A and B. So angle A plus angle B is going to equal 180. B and C, angle B plus angle C equals 180, and C and D. So since you have 4 sides, you're going to have 4 pairs. Now, the very last property regarding parallelograms is about the diagonal measurements. So the diagonals bisect each other. So what that means is E is the midpoint of DB and AC. So AE and EC are equal. DE and EB are equal. So in order to draw this, I'm not going to highlight them solid because I want you to be able to see this section and this section are congruent. And this section with this section are congruent. Now, all of these properties are parallelogram properties. For something to be a parallelogram, all 6 of these properties are true. So as we move through our flow chart, okay, we are adding a new group of properties. And they're parallelogram properties. And those parallelogram properties, okay, it's actually going to really bother me if I don't highlight that whole thing in. I'll go back up and fix quadrilateral. All of these properties that we just did, all of those properties are going to flow down into our next 2 shapes, which is rhombus and rectangle. So I know it's going to look like a hot mess, but on the other page, we will actually kind of combine everything together to have this make a little bit more sense, okay? So these are all of our parallelogram properties. As we work down, those properties will flow down, meaning quadrilateral and parallelogram properties will be in our next video.